June 1st, 2025, a Redditor posted about losing his 31-year-old wife to cancer. I was with her in the hospital bed when she drew her last forceful breaths. This heartbreaking post generated 239 upvotes, 108 comments, and it will be used as training data as part of Reddit's 2024 $60 million deal with Google to train Google's Gemini AI on Reddit content. So then minutes, maybe even seconds, this post was gobbled up by Google to become training data. And I think you'll agree that this is just a little bit weird, right? That this raw confessional post is really being treated as part of a larger data set by Google. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because this is a story about how big tech is in the process of perfecting the perfect business model. So while we have a right to be creeped out by this and to dislike it, we actually don't really have a legal right to fight it. And that's because every time we sign terms and conditions, we agree to it. And on average, we click I agree in 6 seconds or less. And in 2025, inevitably buried somewhere in the 8,000 some odd words that constitute terms and conditions, which we willingly sign, we consent to our data becoming training material. So check this out. In March 2023, Zoom quietly changed its terms of service, a clause that gave Zoom the right to train its AI on your video calls, your audio calls, chat logs, any content anywhere on Zoom. Now in Zoom's case, there was public backlash and they did walk it back, but the reality is the proverbial floodgates had opened long ago. For example, since 2014, Amazon has stored and analyzed Alexa recordings, and you might think, okay, big deal, they're doing it algorithmically. Actually, no, not the case, or at least it wasn't the case. There was a period of time when Amazon was actually sending voice recordings to contractors for manually labeling the voice recordings as part of AI training. So these are real people, probably not in the country where you live, bound by different laws on different corporate governance structures, listening to excerpts of real life human conversations. Grammarly, anything you input in a Grammarly, so essays, chat logs, emails, that's being used to train its AI. And now you can opt out of this with Grammarly, but by default, you're opted in. Google Docs, same story. Again, important to say, with rare exceptions, see Amazon's Alexa, nobody's actually reading the content that you're inputting into these models. But you should know that every minute you spend inside of them, you are training them. You're actively training these models. And here's how. You're helping them to sound more human, more compassionate, yes, but also to be more sycophantic. We're actually strengthening AI's ability to develop these one-way parasocial relationships with their users, which you've probably experienced, right? If you've ever used ChatGPT for therapy or just general questions about life, business, and it responds and tells you how smart you are, what a clever question that was. This patent actually demonstrates how Amazon can use one's voice to determine their emotional state. Not crazy for me to imagine a world in which I talk with Amazon Alexa, it hints what it considers to be depression, and you're then pulled into a pharmaceutical marketing funnel for antidepressants. And that example brings us into what I think is arguably the most interesting part of this whole video, which is basically exploring the economics behind all of this. So you've got the Reddit licensing deal, February of 2024. That was for $60 million, and was Google licensing data from Reddit. After that, you had a Stack Overflow deal, where Stack Overflow essentially opened up its 50 million plus developer Q&As to OpenAI. One of Grok's main competitive advantages is that it has basically exclusive access to the X database of, billions of different tweets? And these are all examples of the scale of the economics at play here. Individually, your Facebook posts aren't going to be worth much, but in aggregate, the content we're creating has tremendous value. If we as users wanted to assert the value of any of the content we're creating, we would have to do so collectively. And as you know, collective action, collective organization is very difficult to coordinate. And so this is how the AI economy works. It takes all this work, a lot of it public, volunteered, unmonetized, and then it aggregates it, it bundles it up, and turns it into proprietary intelligence. And that's the dynamic. The platforms where we have chosen to post, they get paid. AI companies get smarter. They develop better products, they get paid. And the voices of the people who constitute the digital commons, our voices get mixed up, repackaged, and resold for great profit. As far as what's next, I have no idea. But I do sort of feel like we've been here before with social media. When it first came out, we all found it, or most of us found it, too useful not to use. Too many of our friends were on Facebook. And so before we realized the scale of Zuckerberg and Facebook's just careless malevolence, we basically freely gave our data to them. And now I think a lot of us wish that we could put the genie back in the bottle. And so I do wonder, 5 years from now, are we going to have regretted giving all of this data to large language models like ChatGPT, like Claude? I see the information that I'm putting into ChatGPT on a daily basis, and in my mind, it's just too valuable not to monetize. It takes Silicon Valley a while. The initial phase, it's always growth, right? Growth, build the moat, destroy competitors, disrupt the incumbents. But eventually there comes a phase of revenue optimization. And when that comes, I feel like, we're probably going to be seeing some pretty invasive, highly targeted ads in each of these LLMs that we're using. But ultimately, I gotta admit, I don't know. I don't know where any of this goes. I wish I did. I wish I had a tidy conclusion for you, but I don't. So I'm gonna go ask ChatGPT.